Hey, what's good, my people? What's good, my people? Just wanted to come on here real quick and just say something about I did a video last night about the April 8th eclipse, and I mentioned some things. And I did some more reading and some more studying about the red heifer, which is causing so much commotion over in the Middle East right now in the Gaza Strip. Now, the red heifer, the community, they actually been trying to raise these and breed these heifers for a long time. Now, back in the day, in the Bible days, Moses actually was the last one to use these red heifers. And the reason why they had to use the red heifer, because when they were in the wilderness traveling, they literally they couldn't stop and put up a tabernacle every single time. So in order to keep the train moving and to keep the people moving and keep marching towards the land that they were supposed to go to, what they actually did, he sacrificed the red heifer, and he was able to sprinkle the red heifer on the people if they committed a sin without stopping and going to do sacrifices or putting up a temple every time somebody sinned, because they'll never be able to get to where they had to. So what he did, they had the red heifer, they had it in water and had the ashes, and he sprinkled it on the people. So this is the purest form of their sacrifices. So in order for the Jewish community to actually build the temple, this new temple that they want to build, is they have to purify the priests. Now, the only way to purify the priests to the purest form is to sacrifice a red heifer. But when the Israelites left Israel, they weren't, excuse my appearance, I look crazy right now. In order to purify the priests to the purest form, when the Israelites left Israel back in before 70 AD and all these other times, before the fall of Jerusalem, the red heifer disappeared. Once the tribe of Judah disappeared, so did the red heifer, and they couldn't use the red heifer anymore. So that's why they couldn't do the sacrifices, and they couldn't rebuild the temple. That's why the temple was never rebuilt, because they couldn't sacrifice the red heifer anymore to be purified. So these priests got to be purified, number one. Number two, everywhere where Judah went, there were red heifers everywhere. Now that Judah is actually in America, the red heifers are all, they appeared in South America, they appeared in North America, they appeared in these places. So now that the red heifer, they've been making these red heifers, and breeding them to breed out all the black hairs and the white hairs and these things. And the only way they can do it, they have to do it within they gotta be, number one, they have to be 3 years old, and they have to be blemishless, and they can't have any other type of hair on it. They have to be all red hair. So the Jewish community just brought these red heifers from Texas into Israel on January. Now, these red heifers weren't 3 yet, so they were 2. But now these red heifers are 3. The clock is ticking on these red heifers, because once they turn 3 years old, they start to grow white hair and black hair, and then they're disqualified. So, and plus, once they sacrifice the red heifer, they have to build this temple immediately, because you don't want the priest to be unpure again. So they're going to purify the priests, and this is what this war is all about. When you start looking at it, this is what this war is all about. They want to sacrifice this red heifer at the Dome of the Rock, and Hamas is seeing what they're doing. They're like, yo, y'all brought these red heifers over here. What are y'all doing? Why y'all bring these red heifers over here? So they're going to stop them at all costs from doing that, because that's one of the most sacred sites for the Muslim community. So when you look at what's happening right now with the red heifer, they just brought these red heifers over here from Texas. They've been breeding them for the last 10 years. And Dallas, Texas is one of the most dense communities for the Jewish community. It's one of the biggest ones. Texas, California, and the one that we live in New Jersey and New York are the 4 most dense populations of the Jewish community. So they've been breeding these heifers for the past 8 to 10 years, because they knew this time was coming, that the sign of the eclipse was coming. So what they did, now that they breeded these heifers and they have a pure heifer, what they did, they actually moved them over to Jerusalem, and Hamas seen them. And now that these heifers are 3 years old, what they actually want to do is sacrifice the red heifer at this place, but the Hamas don't want them to do it. So they see that it's coming. So that was one of the last times that the red heifer was here. Now that it's back, they only have a certain amount of time to do this. So the clock is actually ticking on. So you don't tell me this is going to escalate this war even further. And they just had a big party in Congress about the evangelicals and the Jewish community. The evangelicals are thinking that it's going to usher in Christ back with these red heifers. And the Jewish community think it's actually going to bring on their Messiah. So both communities think what it's going to do, or think this is what's going to happen. So it's going to escalate this war to one of the most highest degree that it could pop off World War III. And when you look at these signs of these eclipses, the video I did yesterday, when you look at the signs of these eclipses and look at all the things that line up to it, the red heifer is one of the major things of what's going on right now. So you got to check out what's happening with this red heifer and what's going on over there, why they're fighting, why they're trying to stop them from building this new temple, and why because they know, and because only Muslim people are actually able to go to this Dome of the Rock and go inside. But the Jewish people right now are protesting. So these heifers right now are 3 years old. Once they pass 3 years old, they start growing black hairs and white hairs, and they're no longer eligible to be the red heifer anymore. So they have to do it while these heifers are 3 years old. And it takes years to breed cows into making them to the red heifer. So that's why the time is right now. So you have April 8th, which is coming up. You have the sign, this eclipse that's coming. You have the sign of the devil, which is this comet, which is coming. You have these stars that are aligning, which is this sword. That's all happening on April 8th. The sign of the eclipse, which is the sign of Jonah, which happened during 1811 and then 1776 when the country was born. So it's so many things that lines up. But this red heifer that you're checking out right now that's about to happen, they want to sacrifice this red heifer so they can rebuild the temple. And then you wonder why this war is going on so much. This is the first time in American history that we actually voted against supporting the Jewish community, supporting Israel. All of the UN voted against this war right now. This is the first time that they did not support Israel and happening, because they know what it's going to escalate to. So now the Jewish community is pissed off at everybody because we voted down, we voted no, and said do not invade this area and do not do what we think you're about to do. And Hamas sees this. So they know what's about to happen and about to pop off, because this red heifer, they brought these red heifers over in January. And now that they turned 3, they know that they only have a certain amount of time in order to sacrifice these red heifers, to put them in water and burn it down to the ashes and sprinkle these ashes on the priests, and to start building this temple. And Hamas and the Muslim community knows about this. So you're going to get Iran in this thing. You're going to get all these other countries in this war. So this is what's about to kick off. And I'm not saying it's going to happen on April 8th. I'm just saying these signs and wonders happen for them that do not believe. Not for the ones that believe. Because he says we're supposed to know about these signs and wonders to watch. So we know. Because it says if they say the Messiah is out in the wilderness, don't go. Or they say here he is and there he is, don't listen. So we should know about these signs and wonders. And the problem with our community is we only have like a 15-minute span when it comes to learning something. We got so caught up in these TikToks and these certain videos that only last 2 or 3 minutes to try to learn a whole history in 10 to 15 minutes. And it's impossible. It takes years to learn this stuff. I've been studying this stuff for over 20 something years, and it's just starting to click, because now these things are starting to happen. And I'm like, I remember reading that 15 years ago. I remember seeing that 15 years ago. So now is really starting to click with me, because all these things, it says that the rivers of living water will start to flow out of your belly. How? Because I've been putting water, I've been putting the word inside of me and been putting this knowledge inside of me for so long. Now that it's in me, now it's starting to come out of me. And some of this revelation actually comes as I'm speaking, because I'm like, oh, that's what that meant. And it comes as I'm speaking. So Certain amount of these things are happening because it's the time. He says he made the sun, the moon, and the stars for his days and his feast days, for his seasons. It's not winter, spring, summer, and fall. It's for his specific days, and we forgot our days. We were cut off from our history. That's why we don't understand what's going on right now. So now that you look at what's happening with this red heifer over in Israel, they're about to sacrifice this thing because they've been breeding it, and now's the time to do it because they only had a certain amount of them. And now that these heifers are 3 years old, they only have 6 to 8 months to sacrifice these red heifers, and Hamas is not going to let them do it. This is why this war is escalating. This is why you see these battleships over there in these seas. This is why all these things are happening. This is why the UN voted this stuff down. This is why these bridges, not getting into that, but this is the reason why these things are happening right now. You have to start looking at the days and time. It says, look at these seasons and look up in the stars. And then you said you'll know who I am. God said he'll reveal himself in the stars. Why? It's nothing bad about this. Astrology's not bad. How did the Magi find Christ? Yes, I feel the same way too, Brother Rob. How did the Magi find Christ? They seen him in the stars. And that was a 2,000 year thing that they were studying for years and were waiting, and they passed down that tradition for years to their sons and sons' sons and their sons. They kept passing the tradition down and said, look for this star. I might not see it in my lifetime, but when it appears, you better know. And when you start to get old, you need to start teaching your son, because if you die before it happens, your son needs to know this tradition so they know when Christ appears. This is how they found the star in the east and knew who he was, because it was signs and wonders. This is the sign of Jonah, was the eclipse. These things are happening, and there's no way in the world that all these things are happening right now. Look up Mars Hill in the Bible. Look up Mars Hill and what it meant. And look up what's happening right now. And look where this eclipse is going to end up in Maine. It's going to end up in Mars Hill. All these things are happening for a reason. And it's mathematically impossible for someone to write these things thousands of years ago, and all of a sudden we start seeing it right now. It's impossible. And I'm not saying everything that we read and everything we know has not been lied to, or we haven't been altered to these things. That's why we need to keep studying to show yourself approved unto God, a working, rightly dividing the word of truth. Need not to be ashamed. This is the reason why. But these red heifers, I came on here real quick to say about these red heifers, that these red heifers are 3 years old now, and they've been breeding these red heifers for the past 10 years, 8 to 10 years in Texas. Sorry behind Dallas, Texas. That was for you, Shamise. Sorry behind Dallas, Texas. And now that they became mature, they brought them over when they were 2. Now that they're 3, they're about to sacrifice these red heifers. About to sacrifice these red heifers, and Hamas is trying to stop them. So this is the reason why we got to be aware and how these things are going and what's going on right now, because we got to know. We have to start seeing these things and prepare ourselves. Why are these bridges being blown up? Why are they signing off on the dollar, on the petrodollar right now? Because when this economy collapses, are we going to have enough food for a couple months? Do we even have enough food for 2 weeks? Because when you go to the grocery store, there's only going to be enough food for 2 weeks. And if everybody goes and wipes it out, we're in trouble. We have to be careful, start stocking up on canned goods and non-perishables, and have stuff ready that in water, so you'll be prepared, because Baltimore, Oklahoma bridge, and this other bridge that was just blown up or just knocked down, whatever how you want to call it, these are the main supply hubs of the Midwest and the East and the West. We have to look at why they just blew these bridges up, and then what's coming on April 8th. Just start looking this stuff up, so we can be careful. It says we're supposed to know these things, and then also have an answer for these questions when people ask us certain things. So everybody's not a teacher. Everybody is going to have their own thing. So someone might teach Christ. Someone might teach baptism. Some might teach the resurrection. Another person might teach the Old Testament or just Torah. Ohio, yes, you're right. Some other people might just teach Torah, and some might teach New Testament only. But I might be one of the teachers that I can tie history into the Bible and start tying the indigenous people into the Bible, or start tying the African people into the Bible and who these bloodlines are. Her seed and Satan's seed. Who's the difference? These bloodlines that they talk about, that they change these names. How did we find out that King James came over here before he wrote this Bible? And then before he wrote the Bible, he translated a satanic Bible or a satanic book. The same King James. He was a translator. And then he took out these words purposely. And they X'd out Acts 29 because they didn't want to let you know where Paul went on his journeys to preach the gospel and who he was preaching to. Who were the real Druids? Who were the real Irish people? I'm 1/4 Irish, and I started looking up my name up in I'm tied into the McLaughlins, and I found out who the surnames were. It blew my mind. So everybody, I don't want to get into all that, but we have to start being aware of these things and what's going on and why the clock is starting to tick, and why did it start ticking in 2019, and why does the Av and the Taleph, why is the Av the last letter of the Hebrew alphabet represents the number 400. The 400 years is up. And everything started popping off, going crazy on a certain year. During 2012 and 2019, these are significant years in the Hebrew calendars. And everything always pops off. Wars, disasters, all these things always pops off on Hebrew holidays, which is not from the Talmud, but from the 13 lunar cycles or the 13 months. That's why they changed everything to 12 months and 12 lunar cycles to throw us off, because they're trying to extend their years because they know prophecy's coming, or they know that once we start waking up, their time starts to shorten less and less. So we have to start being aware and have to start looking and understanding what is happening right now, because time is running short. So we have to start preparing ourselves for this time and this tribulation that's about to come. A lot of people think we're going to be raptured up out of here. No, we're not. We're going to be right here. And the Lord's going to protect those. Remember, he said he's going to protect the woman. So, what's up, Dawn? I try to make a little bit of sense. I ain't the smartest brother in the world, and I can't put everything together, but certain things comes out because I start reading a lot. But we just literally have to start putting these things together and understand why these things are happening. And because a lot of people laugh at me because I might throw a brick out there and call it a house. And then I'll throw a fence out there and call it a house. And then I'll throw a window out there and call it a house. But it's not a house until you put them all together. So everybody else is just seeing a brick, and they're just seeing cement, and they're just seeing a window pane. But when you put it together, you start seeing a house. And a lot of people don't like going down rabbit holes, and they don't, and they get mad at me, and they laugh at me, and they laugh at certain people that talk certain things and saying, oh, it should just be about saving souls. It's just be about this. And you need to just preach Christ crucified. No, it's not just about that, because other people have other knowledge, and they have questions and why. Like when they ask questions, where did Cain find the wife at? And where was the gap theory? And where did the dinosaurs happen? And why there are many pyramids over in America? And why did this happen? And why did that happen? If you don't have an answer, it's hard to see these things. It's hard to explain them, but you need all of this knowledge to bring it back to the Most High. And this is the reason why it says you should have an answer for these people, and should have an answer. I'm one of the ones that studies certain different things, that we're able to tie these things and look at certain things. Some people can look up the etymology of words. I'm not great with the etymology of words, but I'm great in looking up words and finding out what it means, and then I'm able to talk about it and then retie it back to the scripture. And I'm also able to tie the loose ends where they took certain things out and put certain things in and substituted, because there wasn't English letters and English words for these Greek words and these Hebrew words that have dual meanings or triple meanings or even female and male meanings. So we have to learn how to tie these things back in, which everybody has their own calling. Everybody has their own ability to do certain things. And it says, make your calling and election sure. Understand why God called you. Understand why God made you. And the time that we were in right now. So it's not always just about this and just about the blessing and just about certain things. It's about what is happening right now? What's about to happen on April 8th? What has happened on the eclipse that happened in 2017 and then the one that happened last year in 2023? That one that happened in 2023 was an annual eclipse, which was the moon was further back, which means there was a ring around the moon, which was a ring of fire, which means was a warning shot. Those eclipses are always warnings before God brings down his hammer, before he told these people to repent. This is the sign of Jonah that was happening. This is what happened at that point in time. This is what happened during that time. During the sign of Jonah, there was an eclipse before he got there. That's why a city of 4 million people repented. And then that pagan city and that king of Persia, or these Persian kings that was ruling Nineveh at that point in time, that was the only time in their history that one king didn't go out and go conquer cities. But when you look at history and look at Nineveh and how all the kings of Nineveh went out to war at that point in time, that was the only year, was the year that Jonah went to Nineveh and preached. Why did they change so fast? Because they seen this sign in the sky and they realized that it was really God. So they believed Jonah, what he was preaching, and said, you know what? We must repent. This is the sign of repentance. Look up Mars Hill in the Bible in the book of Acts when Paul was preaching and telling them people, get back to your basics. Get back to this. Stop worshiping all these other deities and worship the Most High God, the true and living God, the one that created this, created you, created the sun, the moons, and the stars, and put this cycle in the sky that we're able to track these things in the stars that's about to happen. These things were predicted, and these people know that their time is up. That's why they want to build this temple. That's why they want to sacrifice this red heifer, but they only got about 6 to 8 more months because these heifers just turned 3. And it'll take too long to do it again. And they have to do it on these certain holidays, because one of these holidays ain't going to happen for another 40 years, because that's the year of Jubilee. This is one of the years of Jubilees that's about to pop up. Or the Feast of Trumpets that's about to pop up. And another one's not going to happen, I think, for another 70 years. Or 40, I think it's 70 years. So that's why they got to do it on this one. Because they believe it's going to happen now. It's always a clock in the sky. And God said he will reveal himself in the stars. So we have to start understanding and have to start getting to these things, that we start tying these things together. To start tying them together. No one's no better than other. I glean from other people. I glean from people that know the Greek and Hebrew better than I do. And then I'm able to tie it in to the things that I've been looking at in history all my life. And been asking questions and looking at indigenous people. Then I go talk to people that know the indigenous history. Because how is their history longer than the Bible's history? They can trace their history back over 20,000 years. We started raising questions. Oh, was the Bible real? Yeah, it's real. But how does it fit into that 20,000 years? And where is this gap theory part? Or where does this happen at? So we look at these things and find out, oh, that's how it happens. Then I'm able to tie it back in. Because I started looking at pyramids, and I started looking at giant trees, and I started looking at the Nephilim, and I was like, where did this fit in the Bible? How does this fit? So I stopped trying to prove the Bible with the Bible, because then I was just going on my belief of what I was brought up at. But I didn't go off of history of what's still in the ground right now. Everywhere where you can go on this green earth right now, you can dig up older bones, and it's always going to tie into a certain type of blood type, that they were there first. And then other people took over. They took over that land and then started mixing the seed and they took over that land. Then he moved us out and started enslaving us. And that's how we got scattered everywhere. Because he says, then you will know me in the land of your captivity. But he says, we're all over the place. We're not lost. We're just scattered. We're not lost. We're just scattered. And it says, Psalms 83 says, we will not know who we are. And they will cut us off from our land, our history, our people, our God, our language, everything. It says they will conspire against us. So we will not know who we are. But yes, that opened my mind up so much when I started studying giant trees and started finding out, what is this? That does not look like a mountain. That looks like a tree stump. So there's certain things that we have to get into these things and start looking and start reading and start trying to understand. We're not going to understand everything tomorrow or even a year from now. This stuff is just starting to come together, but for me, it's coming together at the right time because I've been studying for the past 15, 20 years. And then now it's starting to open up my eye because I'm starting to see these signs and wonders. The signs and wonders are for them that do not believe. There's an article that I was looking at in the New York Times the other day that this man just started preaching on the subway. And this lady bopped him upside the head with a bottle and he was bleeding. And her son said, "Mom, why did you hit this man?" This lady was an atheist and she started crying her eyes out because her son was mute. Then this other lady had her leg healed because someone was preaching and she didn't believe in God. And he says, "Oh, you don't believe in God?" He touched her leg and her bone was mended. Signs and wonders are for them that don't believe. I remember when I was little, I hated being in church and I didn't understand anything. And this girl across the street from me got hit by a car. And I remember she was a young girl and she grew up and one of her legs was shorter than the other. She lived across the street from us. And my whole family can testify to this. The lady came to church. She had a limp and she broke her femur leg and her leg was one shorter than the other. And this girl was a tall girl. She was like 5'9", 5'10". She was a very tall girl. I was sitting there, I think I was like 7, 8 years old or whatever how old I was a young boy. I literally seen her leg grow 6 inches because her leg stopped growing because her femur bone was broken during her growth spurt. And I seen her leg grow right in front of me. And at that point in time as a little boy, I was starting not to believe already because I hated church. And I said, this is crazy. This is one of the main things that I hold on to because I seen it for myself. Now, whether we want to get stuck on a name and stuck on J and the 400, J wasn't here, 500, I get all that. I understand all that. I get it. But they took that out for a reason. They put God and Lord in the Bible for a reason. They did it for a reason. We have to start getting to the point where we start understanding these things and why they did things. It's to hide who you were. Everything. Why is Putin bringing this information out right now? It's for his political gain. Ain't just for us. We always knew that he couldn't have been Cesar Borgia and look like that in that area. Now everybody else is saying, and the evangelicals are saying, "Oh, does it really matter?" But did it matter when you was throwing that in our face? So we have to start looking at who's the bloodline, who's the seed, who's the A1B1 haplogroup. We start looking at these haplogroups and start understanding why is this red heifer about to be sacrificed over there and why is this war ratcheting up right now? Because they've been breeding these heifers for the past 8 to 10 years. They've been breeding these heifers, and now that these heifers they've got them over there, and now that they're 3 years old, their time is ticking and this war's about to ratchet up. So be prepared to what's going on. I got to get back because I'm on my lunch. I might do a little something tonight, but this is the reason why. Start studying these different, we have to start studying these different civilizations and also to understand why we're here right now and how did we get here and what's going on. Are they aliens? Were they Nephilim? Are they Hebrews? Are they, who were they? Did the Tower of Babel really happen? And then did they disperse? Was the Bible really plagiarized from Kemet? Or did they take them from the Sumerian texts? You have to start knowing these things because then you're just believing in a fairy tale. So when you start getting the foundation and the crest and get this thing deep down inside and start understanding why we're here, who we really are, and who this word is really talking about, and why certain people are grafted in, we'll start understanding things a lot more and why they've been persecuting us for so long and why that they know that is slipping because they know their time is up right now. They know this. So I implore you, I said a couple things, but understand why this red heifer is about to be sacrificed and what the red heifer is all about and why they need this red heifer to rebuild the temple. And then why Hamas is so mad that they're about to, because they know that Israel's about to blow this dome up and they're about to destroy that holy place, that holy mountain that they think, that their holy mountain is. They're about to destroy it because they want to rebuild this temple, but they also have to sacrifice it at that spot. And only Muslims are allowed on that spot right now, inside of that temple. This is the reason why this stuff is about to ratchet up. Look up August 8th. Start studying the eclipse and what's going on. and what and the numerical things that are happening and the sign of Jonah and all these feast days. Look, they all lining up at the right time. It's crazy. Look at CERN is about to start this engine up on April 8th at the same time. That's one of the biggest fault lines, that a pyramid is right there at the cross of the Tav. In Little Egypt, there's a pyramid at that spot where the X crosses. And CERN is about to start this thing up that's 7 miles long. It's a reason why. And we look at, oh, he's crazy. No, they're trying to blow a hole in this layer and try and open up portholes. This is what they're trying, whether they're trying to do it in the ground. Remember, it says hell enlarged itself, and it was in the. Now they're trying to blow this thing up, and they've been trying to blow a hole in the ozone layer that some people call the ozone layer, some people call it the dome. I'm not getting in that right now, but they're trying to blow a hole in this dimension, and trying to open up portholes. And they know when they open it up, they know what's going to come through, or they know what's going to happen. So be alert of what's happening right now. Just look up CERN. And then you'll be like, oh my God. Look up Stephen Darby and look up CERN. And he kind of talked about this years ago of what they were trying to do. I think it's Stephen Darby, and I know it's something about CERN. Just look up that video on YouTube. Just go into it. But it's the reason why this thing is about to ratchet up right now, because they're about to try to sacrifice this red heifer that they've been breeding. That it's real funny that the red heifer disappeared from all these lands which Judah was dispersed from. When Judah left, the red heifer left. Where Judah appeared, the red heifer appears. And that's why they're trying to get these Ghananians or Ghana people over there, because they know there's certain things that they know that they're priests. And they cannot sacrifice these red heifers without the knowledge of these priests, these people from Ghana and these other African people, that their haplogroup is from the tribe of Levi, and they know that their bloodline is part of Levi because they tested these people, not them, but they tested them to find out what haplogroup they belong to and what tribe they belong to, and they realize they belong to the tribe of Levi and they need their help. And they're trying to bring them over here because they know that they're not the real people. So they're trying to bring us over there, or the real people over there, so they can understand, number one, what's going on, and then number two, stop Hamas from blowing them back up. Because then they say, oh, now they're bringing the real people over. So they know what they're doing. Why do they need these African people over here to help sacrifice the red heifer? Why? Because they know what their bloodline is. And they know they didn't take everybody from Africa. They still know that some bloodlines are untainted that are still over there. But they also know what happened during the not just the transatlantic slave trade, because the Arabic slave trade was first and was worse than the transatlantic slave trade. And that's the key. And when you look at the Arabic slave trade, because this is where they got the original people from, and when they got them from dispersed, before they even ran to Africa for safety or ran to these other countries. And then why? Just look up black nobility in England. Look it up. Look up black nobility in Europe, and then you'll wonder who these people are. And then you'll understand who King James really was and why he came over to America, and then why he translated the book right after he came over here. He came over in 1608, translated his book in 1611. Just check this stuff out. I got to get back to work, y'all. I love y'all. Shama Blam. Shama, God is with you. Let's keep looking at this thing and understand, but be prepared of what's about to happen. Be prepared. Love you.